Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a writing tip. Let's get right in it. Any good story is worth telling, and I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks and ideas on how to tell a story. But remember, I'm not an authority figure on writing. These are just some ideas. But before we get started, I do want to tell you a couple stories. And you'll have to wait until the end to see which one is the real story and which one is the made-up story. And for the sake of leveling the playing field, I'm going to start both of them off with Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time. I'm kidding. Once upon a time, there was a man who once again went to the same cabin in the woods that he's been going to since he was a little boy. And he goes to this cabin because he is hell-bent on catching this fish. And it's a specific fish. And the reason why he knows that it's a specific fish, because he caught it when he was a teenager. On the cusp of being a young man, he caught this fish. It was a beautiful, gorgeous bass. And as it jumped out of his hands, his fishing lure that his grandfather made him by hand got caught in its back. And now, over the years, as he goes fishing, when that fish gets close enough to the surface, he sees this lure flashing just underneath the water surface. He knows it's there, but he has enough integrity that he's not going to just shoot it in the water or use a net. Hey, I also want to take a second to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification icon if you want to hear more tips and tricks about writing and art. I alternate every other week about which tip I'm doing. This week is writing, next week is going to be art. Make sure you do hit that notification icon so that you do not miss an episode of mine. I upload every single week, on Tuesday at least. I sprinkle other stuff in throughout the week as well. Second story. Once upon a time, there was a young couple. Just as they came over a hill on the highway, they saw this massive turtle. Now, where they're from, if there's a massive turtle, it's most likely a snapping turtle. As they approached and got closer, sure enough, it was an alligator snapping turtle. The woman in the couple demanded to pull over. So the boyfriend agreed. He pulled over onto the side of the road, turned on the hazard lights, and this girl goes into the ditch and gets a really long piece of grass. And she uses it to attract the turtle to snap on and latch onto that so she can quickly wrap the really long reed-like grass around the back of its head and quickly grab the tail of it so she can hoist it into the ditch, because if someone had run over that turtle, they would have blown out the tire. Think about it. Which one do you think is the true story? And which one do you think was the made-up story? And there is a reason why I'm asking that, because my tip today is to familiarize yourself with your story. Like I said, any good story is worth telling, and you want to share it with the world, but you want it to also be appealing to others. And people like detail. They like getting to know what's going on in the story. And if you're the one telling the story, you have to know what's going on. Ask yourself all those questions. You come up with a story, you have a great idea. Get your notebook. That was one of my tips and my top 5 writing tips. Get a notebook where you write down everything you can about that book, and then start asking yourself questions. Start asking, why is the main character doing what they're doing? Why are they in the setting that they're in? Are you wanting it to be in a certain time period? Why? Because certain time periods give different feels and effects to the story that you're writing. What feel do you want to give off in the story? And the more you know about your story, the easier it's going to be to share about it and talk about it. Now, if you've waited this far to figure out, the fish story was the made-up one, and the turtle one was the real one. And the reason why I even bothered doing that is because before I even recorded this video, I had my husband help me come up with a prompt for a made-up story, and I went through the process. I'm like, because I asked him, and he's like, cabin in the woods, and I'm like, well, why a cabin in the woods? What would someone be doing? And then I just asked myself these preliminary questions of why would someone be in a cabin in the woods? Why is this cabin in the woods important? What would they be doing there? And this man is fishing, but why is he fishing? Why does he need to catch this fish? It's like the fish that he just has tried to get and just can't get it. It's like the country version of Moby Dick. Now, that true story, by the way, that was me who wrangled that turtle. And I can tell that story because I've lived through it. I know it. So I'm super familiar with it. So when it's a true story that you're telling, it almost makes it easier to share the story because you've lived through it. You know so much about the intimate details of that story. Do that with your made-up stories. Treat it like it's real in a sense. And I'm not trying to tell you to be delusional and think your made-up story is real, but treat it like it is. Treat it like maybe you're the main character and you're asking yourself these questions as the main character. Why are you behaving the way that you are? What is your mission in this? What's important to you? What is going on? What is the end goal that you're going to get with this? Ask yourself every question that you can think of. I'm currently writing an epic high fantasy novel, and it has been fun and frustrating going through that process because it's fun to figure out the details. But I will say, there was a lot of times I couldn't answer those questions I asked myself for a really long time. I had to sit with the story for a while, and I had to think about it. And the more complex that your questions are, the more complex your story's going to become. And it's going to get meatier, it's going to get juicier, and it's going to be a story that people are going to want to hear. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. I hope that encourages you to get started working. That gives you some ideas on how to move forward in your story, because maybe you have a story that you're really wanting to tell, but you're not quite sure how to continue going. I haven't gotten to a tip about outlining yet, but this is a good beginner starting to get there, okay? All right. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. All of my socials are linked below. Again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Once upon a time, a turtle and a fish. Once upon a time, a turtle and a fish. Why can I not just keep going after I do it? Why can't I just go and do it? The intro and then go right into what I was saying. I do the intro and then my mind just leaves me. I would not be a good person in front of a camera. I would not. Thank you, honey. You're very sweet. But people, when they're supposed to be recorded in front of a camera, are supposed to be a lot better about remembering what they're supposed to say as soon as it's time to say it. Oh. Yeah. What's it called? What's it called? I just said it, didn't I?